I'm listening to this Q&A with Jordan Peterson about women and equality and all this psychobabble of the modern day left-wing feminazis. And all I got to do is look at this mutt, okay? And I know she's not up for competitive reality. Just look at her. Look at her body. Look at the way she dresses. She's a loser. But in an entitled world of the Western civilization today, whereby if you have a vagina, you will be guaranteed a place at the table to inflict your inane opinions on the world. And let me remind you about equality. You don't have a penis. Ergo, you cannot be equal to men. You don't have a penis. Any more than a man could be equal to you if he doesn't have breasts and a vagina. This equality argument is absurd. It's absurd as a gender argument, as a race argument. Why is the NBA so overpopulated with black athletes? Why? Because we're all equal? Why are Asians so adroit at math? Because we're all equal? And you know what kills me about the left? If you cite these things, they call you a racist. Because manifest evidence never, ever trumps their feelings. So I listen to this mutt go on about who's entitled and who isn't.
Men are not oppressed because they're men. Men will be oppressed in their lives for all kinds of different reasons. They might be oppressed because they're working class. They might be oppressed because of their ethnicity or their religion or their age or their sexuality or their ability status. But at no point in human history have all men been judged, oppressed, disenfranchised, kicked out of institutions on behalf of their maleness.
All right, let me tell you something, mama fat slut. Number one, read the statistics of the Civil War. 700,000 men lost their lives. Not women, men. You want to talk about fighting for freedom? Because it wasn't women, it was men. And when tyranny raised its head in World War I, 37 million people died. Over 20 some odd million were soldiers. Germans, Russians, Americans, French, English. Need I go on? They were men, not women. You were all candy stripers and nurses, okay? And in World War II, 60 some odd million. Most were men. When the Titanic sunk, most of the people who died were men. So little Miss Molly Yards like you get the lifeboat. So, number one, let's talk about discrimination, Molly Yard. Because you need to come up in just the last century with about 100 million dead women sacrificing their lives so much like you could inflict their racist opinion on the world. And you can't, stupid, but you keep on filling the world with your gas. Okay? Now, don't you tell me about being oppressed. Don't you tell me when I was told as a white male you couldn't get a civil service job with less than a 99. And now we have 4-foot, 6-inch women being hired as state troopers in New York. Yeah, let me say it again. 4'6". Yeah, they call her Trooper Yardstick. So don't you tell me when men had to meet a requirement for most of my life of 5'11" or taller. And don't tell me that what I see in public schools, overpopulated with feminazis like you, punishing boys because they have a penis and leaving them behind while you cater to young school mutts like you. Women are not engineers. They're not builders. They don't build bridges. They don't build airplanes. They don't build tanks. They don't build buildings. That's the fact. When men want to play as little boys with Tinker Toys, you had a doll. And all your propaganda doesn't change that little girls want to be mummies and little boys want to be soldiers and builders. Because that's how God or nature made us. If that offends you, sue God. Or sue your parents. But that is your DNA. That's why you put on a fake face in the morning with your pink lips. Yeah, I've said it for years. Mascara, the Greek word for mask. What is it, Halloween? You pluck your eyebrows, you put on rouge, you put on lipstick, you paint your eyelids and your eyelashes, and you go out in the world as a bastion of integrity. Well, to me, you're all clowns. You engage in subterfuge at the very elementary level of what you are. Men do not do that. As a matter of fact, we do the opposite. We shave our face clean. And the only part of our bodies you get to see at work is our face and hands. But you get to dress as if to ensnare men. That's the whole psychology between rouge. So when I listen to this psychobabble, let's invade the domain of any all-female school. It is a mass hysteria hissy fit. But you have invaded the likes of West Point and Annapolis and the Air Force Academy, where men are trained for war, academy. Now you're an academic, you've got to go to an academy, not Yale. But it isn't enough that you took over Yale and Harvard and all these liberal, limp-wristed institutions of so-called higher learning. You've had to inflict yourselves on the body military because you're so indispensable. And when war breaks out, how many of you will actually see combat and die? Well, some will, and I honor their service, and I don't begrudge them the right to go. But don't you tell me or anybody else in this society that there isn't a double standard. When men have to qualify by doing X amount of pull-ups and women just get to hang from the bar for 30 seconds and they pass. Because that's the truth. And go invade a hospital and try to be a nurse as a man. And go try to get an elementary school teaching job as a man today. You'll get run off. When we have to abide this psychobabble, what woman in this country was told by the government, well, you're a white female, can't have the job? But they told that to millions of men.
Just has not happened. And I think where a lot of feminists get really frustrated is that we are constantly subject to these crazy, literally straw man arguments about you believe in this and you hate all men and it's you feminists who are undermining everything. And yet, where is our control of institutions? What has happened in the West is that we developed democracy. And democracy actually meant the enfranchisement of all of us.
Really?
The conversations about what society looks like.
Then why do you need the government? Then why do you have to form the ERA? Then why do you have to have feminazi rallies? If this was up to the survival of the species and a Darwinian logic of those who rise to the top, why is gravity never enough? Oh, because men put up impediments? Do you think men, when they're planning to build a ship or a bridge, are sitting there contemplating how they could keep women out of the design room and out of the engineering rooms? They don't care. They're doing their job. This is the orchestration of your own fate as a female. And you're pissed off because, I don't know, Daddy didn't play Little League with you. But to act like this isn't more nature than nurture is absurd. It's absurd. And if we were in such a wonderful democracy, then women would flow into society in every aspect. Why aren't you playing for the New York Giants? Why? Why can't you make it? Why do you have to have a WNBA? Why can't you compete in the NBA? Oh, because you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're not physically capable. By the way, either are most men. So what are we supposed to do? Sue the NBA? Because we're not all 6'9"? This is the most absurd, perverted illogic ever espoused, and they talk about it like the world doesn't know. It's unbelievable.
What manners are, what behaviour is, what courtesy looks like has changed because it's not one group making that decision anymore. And I understand that that's a difficult transition for people who've grown up with narratives where those decisions and those institutions belong.
Don't hold the door for you. Don't call me ma'am. Don't call me miss. Don't call me Mrs. We need a scorecard, just like with black people. We're a Negro, we're black, we're colored, we're African American, we're Afrocentric. You know what? The average man Like, for instance, like the average white guy. He don't care about any of that crap. He don't care what you call him. Just pay him. I don't care what you call me. Just pay me. But everything is a pontafu with you nasty mutts. And men are walking away from you. We don't need the BS. If I had sons, I wouldn't let them marry a woman in this country. No way. No way. I'd marry an Asian woman. I'd marry a woman from South America. I would never let... She'd have to walk on water. I wouldn't put up with it. You have developed a whole industry of divorce. And you act like it's 1972. Like you haven't completely invaded the workforce. But you still sue men like you have no job. So what is that all about? Why do the courts always decide on behalf of the women 90% of the time? They get all the rights to the children. They get all the possessions. Why? Why do they get the alimony? And it seems to never matter who makes more money, because in many cases, women make more money than their husbands, and that's why they get divorced. So this absurd, lying bull has got to be called out every time you hear it. And the civil rights, go see what demographic gained the most from civil rights. It was white females. Black people are still garbage men and who got ahead? White females. They let the buttress of the black movement knock the door down, and they ran in and stole all the goodies. That's what happened. And I don't know anybody else has the temerity to say it. If a woman is a brain surgeon and she's the best brain surgeon in the world, I celebrate her. If she could be the best leader of a free country, I'd celebrate her. But none of this Molly Yard, hypocritical BS where some loser like this woman, I just look at her and I go, this is a loser. This is the bottom of the food chain. And she's shooting her mouth off. And she's pissed off because you know what she knows? She's at the bottom of the food chain. And let me ask you something. Why do all feminist athletes look like Lloyd Bridges and Kirk Douglas? What is that all about? Why is it all sports among women has to have lesbian coaches? I don't see that with men. I don't see homosexual coaches coaching football. Why do we have homosexual women coaching soccer and softball at the college level? You look at whether, I don't care, they all look like lesbians, and they all behave like lesbians. Why is it in the name of feminism they act like men? They dress like men. They get their hair cut like men. I don't get it. Imagine if a man stood up for masculinity and wore a dress and pigtails. This is perversion on every level.